the history behind Buurtzorg. When I started to work as a nurse in the 80s, I had a wonderful job. My job was taking care for patients as a community health nurse. And then the world changed. Because in a few years, the politicians, the economists thought that healthcare should be defined as products. And what you saw was an industrialization of healthcare, commercialization and industrialization. So what happened was that healthcare was defined as products. And nurses were registering their minutes, the minutes that they delivered healthcare, the products, nursing care, personal care, all products with different tariffs. We got a very bureaucratic way of dealing with healthcare. A lot of nurses quit their jobs, and a lot of nurses didn't want to work this way because it was not fitting their professional ethics. So based on this history, we designed a model, what we called Buurtzorg. With some friends, we sat together and we said we can do a better thing than this. We can increase the quality, we can increase the working conditions, and we can create an organization that has impact on the Dutch healthcare industry. So that's what we did. So we used the elements from the past. It was the way I was used to work in the 80s with wonderful colleagues. These colleagues were also my source of inspiration. And then we transformed it to this current time, to this time, with all the elements we have now, using the most smart IT solutions, using our insights on how a team can work, and using all the ideas about what is good healthcare. In this way, we built the design, the model, Buurtzorg. The Buurtzorg vision. It's very important to understand the Buurtzorg vision because it's, I think, the most important thing of Buurtzorg. How are we supporting patients? How are we creating quality of life in the way we are dealing with problems of patients? In the beginning, we say, okay, of course, we got a patient, somebody who has healthcare problems, somebody who is chronically ill. It could also be a patient who needs palliative terminal care. Then it's very important to understand this patient, to learn about the history and to focus on the coping strategy, for example. How does somebody deal with all these topics and these dramas, what are happening in their lives? But all these people have an environment, and this environment is also very important to involve in the interventions. So how is the social status? How is the family structure? So has these people, do they have children? Do they have a relationship? Do they have neighbors? Do they have friends? All these people can be involved in solutions. When you have an aggressive chronic disease, it's important to find out if you can also involve and ask for participation of people around the patient, because that's the way you can create a normal life as long as possible. So you have to be aware that everything you're doing can be leading to a kind of dependence of the patient. So we want that people can live in a high quality of life and independent life. We have the informal networks around the patients. So where do they live, in what kind of neighborhood? And can we also involve volunteers, for example? We have the formal network. So we have the doctor, we have the physiotherapist, the pharmacist. We have the professional people that a Buurtzorg team is working together with. And all these things together, you can see it as different layers of an onion. So there we call it the onion model. So be aware that all these elements in the context of a patient can contribute to the solution. And the way you work with the patient and with the environment has a lot of impact on the outcome and the results of what you're doing. The system, what do we mean with the system? And dealing with the system, what is that? The system is our environment. So we built Buurtzorg in a way that we know very well what we wanted with the organization itself. But the environment is unpredictable. So you see that things are changing all the time in the environment. You have a lot of stakeholders. Yes, you can call them stakeholders perhaps. You see that the authorities, for example, who ask for compliance. You see that the health insurance, who ask for a kind of compliance that's even more difficult for workers. You see that this whole environment is changing all the time, and I call it the system. Dealing with the system is a very important part of the development of Buurtzorg, because we wanted to change the system. We needed to change the system to be able to do what we wanted with Buurtzorg. So we asked for simplification, for example. We had these products. We had 20 products in Holland when we started. So we had personal care extra, personal care special, nursing care extra, and all the different products had different tariffs and asked for different kinds of registration and administration. So we said if we just can have one price, then it will simplify the administration enormously. But of course we had to talk with the health insurers. We have to prove them that it would lead to a reduction of costs. So what we showed all the time with the system, that our alternatives were better than what we had. So for example, we had discussions about quality. Quality is always this very important topic. So the inspection asked us, how do you deal with quality? And we said, quality is the result of what we are doing with patients, a result of the interventions. So we should focus on outcome, on results, not on registering products. So the registration of products only gives information about the product and about the time you spend on the product. But if you monitor the interventions and the results of the interventions, you create knowledge, you create all kinds of standards and guidelines. So therefore we were using the OMAHA system. The OMAHA system was something that really supported our daily practice in nursing care. So dealing with systems is very difficult. I think one of the most difficult parts, but it's needed. And have good relationships with your stakeholders. So talking and having a dialogue with, for example, the ministry, with the care authority, with the health insurance was a very important part. So an open mind toward the system, but also having ideas about what you ask for from the system, what you can offer to the system, was a very important thing within the development of Buurtzorg. So we were very happy that we were able to influence the system in a way that Buurtzorg could develop itself in a very natural way. What is the business model behind Buurtzorg? For people who know my history, I have studied 2 years of economics. And my idea was that the economical side should support the front line and not the other way around. So it's not doing services to earn money, but it's using the money to give the best possible services to patients. But of course, this asks also for a financial business model, because if you want to be sustainable, you have to be also healthy in a financial way. So I created a very simple model. And this model is based on my ideas about how economics can work. So I said it's like home. If you spend more money than your income, then you will get problems. So I created a model that said, okay, this is our income, price per hour. So I said all these products we had in the healthcare at that moment, we just take one price. So if you take this one price and you know what kind of costs you have, then you have the basic model. Then you can say these costs are around this. For example, take 50 euro. The income is 52 euro. So there is 2 euro left per hour. That's the basic model for Buurtzorg, and it didn't change in these 15 years. So only the results changed. So we had a budget in the first year of 400 euro 2006. At the moment, we have 470 million euro, but we still have this one sheet where you can see these are the income, these are the costs, and this is the result. So creating a very simple business model is also very important for all the workers within Buurtzorg. So they can see and they can understand and also can contribute to the results. If you can't oversee and if the financial part is a kind of a black hole, then everybody will ask questions. Where does the money come from? Where does it go to? And why should I do these things? Because I don't feel that I have any influence on results and on dealing with the financial part. So the financial model, the business model, in Buurtzorg it's not a commercial model, but it could work as a commercial model. And it's just based on a very simple idea about income, costs and results. And then you see that this continuity in these 15 years is very, very strong. So we see that the income patterns is changing only based on that we have more patients, more workers, more teams. And the cost development is the same within the structure. Every year we have more cost, but it's based on that we have more workers and more nurses and more teams. The business model in a simple way. A lot of organizations who are in this idea of self-organization ask themselves, what kind of transformation do we need? So this topic of transformation is a very interesting topic. It's complex, but whenever you feel that you have taken the right direction, things will improve and increase and going the best way. But what does it mean, transformation? And how does it start? It starts, in my opinion, with awareness. Awareness at the top of the organization that things can change and that this change is contributing to a better and more sustainable result. So self-steering or self-organization as a goal is not the right motive. For example, if you want to improve the quality of healthcare and you say we want also to improve the working conditions of our workers, then I think these are the right motives. So the motives should steer the way you are making a process of transformation. And then if you, as the top management in an organization, are really aware what it means, so what are the motives, but also what does it need about the skills. As a management team, you are used to work in a hierarchical way. So what's the difference if you're going to do it in a more self-steering way, which is based on dialogue? So then you start to talk with teams. You have to talk with people in a way that they feel that it's an equal relationship and that you're not telling them this we are going to do self-steering and this is what you're going to do. No, you're going to ask people, we have ideas about self-steering, what do you think about it? And how could it work? So to start working from a more sending messages way to more listening to what people have to say way, that's quite difficult for a lot of people. So these processes you can choose for different environments where they can fit in. We have chosen for several organizations who we supported for a kind of greenfield approach. And greenfield is that you create a small environment, you can say a small organization, and you use it as an experiment. So you ask several people, a few teams, you ask them to start working in a self-steering way. Of course, all the things you need to do are already described, but you ask these people who want it, and this is what you call the greenfield. You disconnect it from the rest of the organization, and then you see what happened. In the organization we supported, like Sorgearbeit in Holland, they made very big steps because the first group was so enthusiastic that they started to talk about it with their colleagues, with the other teams. So, and after the first experiment with these 3 themes, the whole organization moved towards self-steering. But this process, this transformation process, asks a lot on every place of the organization. The back office, the management team, it should ask for a more coaching style of doing things, and also a restructuring the organization. So perhaps you don't need so many management after the transformation. So you have to be aware that you guide the people in the organization in a way that it feels natural, and that they say, okay, for the organization, it's an improvement, so I will reflect on my own role, and perhaps my own role is not here anymore in the organization, but somewhere else. Or perhaps I should take another role. Instead of being a manager, I become a coach. So these are all important aspects of the transformation process of an organization who's going from a hierarchical system to a way of self-organizing teams. What is the philosophy behind Buurtzorg? And what are the sources of inspiration that Buurtzorg is built on? I'm a community nurse, and I worked for many years as a nurse. And I think that was my biggest source of inspiration. Because every day you start to work and talk about things which are important in life. So we are dealing with very serious problems of patients. Some patients are at the end of life. And if you're helping these patients, you can only do it once in a good way. So for me, when the system changed in Holland towards a more industrial way of working, I wanted to change this. So that was 1993. And I said to my colleagues, I'm not satisfied until we restore the way we should work as community nurses. But of course I had ideas about organizations. I was always interested in different philosophies about organizations. And there were organizations who were successful in self-organization and self-steering. But the most dominant approach was the MBA approach, Master of Business Administration. So a lot of people who have this education look at the world top-down. And I think we should change this. We should look at the world as a kind of a group of people who are trying to do the best possible thing, and as a kind of collective where people can contribute what they have, what their talents are. And one of the philosophies I was really inspired by was the philosophy of Arnold Cornelis. It's a Dutch philosopher, and he showed that everybody, since they are born, has a certain talent and certain pattern of how they look at the world. And we should create conditions that people can develop themselves in a way that they can develop their talents, that they become who they are. So wholeness is a very important thing in working in Buurtzorg. Feel who you are and contribute from everything you can in this way of the daily practice of your work. So the philosophy is simple. Everybody can organize everything themselves. The idea for patients is also simple. Try to do the best possible thing. And if you create a community where these are the most important values and principles, then it will develop itself like it did in Buurtzorg. Theory of Buurtzorg. Is Buurtzorg based on a theory? Yes, I think so. So you have the principles, you have the values, but most of all, there have been a lot of people up till now who wrote about Buurtzorg, and that's very interesting. So in the beginning, everybody said, what is this idea? And can it work? And can it work when it becomes bigger? And then you had these wonderful writers like Frederick Laloux. Frederick Laloux wrote in his book, in Reinventing Organizations, he wrote how this way of thinking fitted in a way of looking at organizational development. How he described the three principles of self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose is wonderful. And it's not, I think it's not surprised that this book became a bestseller all over the world. And we were very proud that we were one of the topics, one of the examples in his book. Another important research was done by Shada Nandram. Shada studied for 3 years the principles of Buurtzorg and the way it looked in practice. So she wrote the book, Organizational Innovation by Integrating Simplification. And she developed the integrating simplification theory. And also this book is, I think, very valuable also for other organizations to reflect on, to see how it all fits together, but how it also asks for a certain culture and an approach. And that all these things are based on a certain worldview, that we should change our way of thinking towards a more sustainable way of dealing with resources, for example. So it's based on a worldview you can see everywhere. The last project, what I did was with Gary Hamel. And Gary Hamel wrote a beautiful book called Humanocracy. And the theme is that we have to move to more human organizations. And it's not only a topic in healthcare, it's a topic in all the industries. Because we see that people are getting more and more disengaged. And especially young people don't accept it anymore. They don't want these impersonal, hierarchical organizations. They want to enjoy their work and they want to be seen as a person. So I think if you look at all these books, that you see that there's a kind of a pattern, that more and more people who have, I think, a very long reputation are writing about this topic. And of course we also have the very practical books of Ben Wenting and Astrid Vermeer about self-management, how can it work. I've been working with them for 25 years and they're really amazing in how they make this communication part so practical that everybody can work with it. So if you look at all these different theories, studies, different universities who did case studies, the reports from KPMG, Ernst & Young, all together shows that there is a certain development in thinking. And last but not least, Thiel around the world. Of course, based and inspired by Frederic Laloux. But if you look at how many examples you see now all over the world, based on ideas of self-organization and based on human-centered organizations, it's amazing. So we should learn from all this literature, from all these books, and try to create more and more human and human-centered organizations. I'm happy that we could contribute to these books and could show that it is possible. The Buurtzorg journey was a very interesting journey. We've been doing this for 15 years now, and every day we learn new things. These different elements of Buurtzorg need also attention. So you can look at Buurtzorg from different perspectives. And it's important that you understand all the different elements of Buurtzorg. And I hope this can become an inspiration for your journey. Thank you for watching.